ancient mountains rise on the horizon. The deep valleys are dominated by a chilling silence, and a relentless sun takes over the sky, creating hell on earth. The golden dunes are whipped by the desert wind. Hidden canyons reveal ancient geological secrets, and the convalescent rivers thirstily await the arrival of the rains. This is the Sonoran Desert, an arid and hostile place ruled by scorching temperatures, where even the slightest trace of life is a miracle. In this inhospitable ecosystem, nature shows its most ruthless face, creating conditions that constantly threaten life. During the day, scorching heat sets the sand ablaze, with every corner of this vast desert burning and suffocating everything in its path. While when night falls, a bone-deep chill plunges this empire into a contrasting agony. In this desert corner of the planet, water, far from being a vital resource, becomes a privilege enjoyed only by a select few. With miles and miles of parched plains and burning dunes stretching out as far as the eye can see, any hope of finding the vital liquid is a mere mirage. However, in what is supposed to be an inert place, sterile to all forms of life, among the burning rocks, emerging from the scorching sand, and soaring through the sunless skies, the most majestic wild creatures, facing the harsh living conditions, manage to prevail. In the arid dunes, the desert-horned lizard appears among the burning sand. The roadrunner, a fleeting bird, flies across the scrubby plains. And among the mountain slopes, the bighorn sheep grapple with the rugged landscape. In this desert world, every wildlife species, no matter how small, plays a crucial role in the delicate balance of nature. The tiny desert woodpecker with its sturdy beak bores into saguaro trees, creating homes for thousands of species. The resilient desert tortoise, at a slow pace, scatters hundreds of seeds across this vast territory. Meanwhile, when night falls, thousands of bats emerge from their daytime roosts and dedicate themselves to pollinating the flowers that survive this challenging ecosystem. But just as the Sonoran Desert is the scene of the most impressive acts of survival, where life thrives in the face of all adversity, from time to time, this endless wilderness also hosts the most brutal massacres at the hands of bloodthirsty predators. Hidden among the rocks, a ferocious reptile lurks in the shadows, intent on claiming a new life. At the sound of a deafening noise, the rattlesnake appears out of nowhere and lays its venomous bite upon another prey. A mere scratch from its sharp fangs is the beginning of a painful death for its victim. Through the thorn forests, a hungry dog emerges as the greatest threat to the survival of hundreds of species. Eyes forward, senses alert, and the skillful coyote plunges into a new hunt that will inevitably end with a new prey between its teeth. In the silent valleys, appearing like a ghost, the indomitable puma dominates every stratum of this vast ecosystem. All wild species, regardless of size or ferocity, must submit to the will of this aggressive yet captivating apex predator. Located at the northern end of the Gulf of California, between the United States and Mexico, the Sonoran Desert covers a region of just over 300,000 square kilometers, roughly the entire territory of Poland. Despite being recognized as a hellish desert, the truth is that this vast territory is home to countless microclimates. To the west of this bountiful kingdom lies the lower Colorado Valley, a place where the heat threatens life and the sparse vegetation convalesces, yet at the same time resists the harshness of the desert. All the erosion of the rocks caused by the incessant winds gives rise to the formation of extensive dune fields, which rise to the end of the horizon. After miles of dry sand, the Sonoran Plains open up, receiving considerably more rainfall, creating the perfect breeding ground for grasslands, scrublands, and even leafy palo verde and mesquite trees, which form one of the greenest areas in the entire ecosystem. To the north, the Arizona highlands represent the northernmost and highest part of the desert. Here, desert scrub filled with saguaros, palo verde, and other cacti dominates the biome. Given the high altitude of this region, heat is not usually a problem, and in fact, in winter the thermometer can reach below freezing. Except for this contrasting region, temperatures in the Sonoran Desert can be stifling. In fact, this earthly hell recorded the highest temperature on the planet's surface, exceeding 80 degrees Celsius. However, the air temperature typically reaches a scorching 40 degrees during the long summer that governs this ecosystem. Faced with the stifling heat, every wild creature does everything it can to avoid succumbing. The black-tailed jackrabbit takes refuge in its cool burrow. The roadrunner flaps its wings rapidly to dissipate heat. Meanwhile, bighorn sheep take advantage of the shade of the rocky outcrops to gain a few degrees from the scorching climate. As this ungulate rests peacefully among the rugged terrain, a hungry coyote lurks in the distance. With a coat ranging in shades of grayish-brown to cinnamon, mixed with creamy white on the underside of the body, this wild dog has been endowed with prodigious natural camouflage, which allows it to stalk its prey without revealing the slightest sign of its presence. Although the ram represents an ambitious prey, the product of extreme famine, the canine ventures to hunt it. Like a skilled predator, the coyote is patient, waiting for the right moment to launch a violent attack. Although its size of no more than 17 kilograms puts it at a clear physical disadvantage, a powerful bite makes it a formidable rival, even for the most robust sheep. Moving with extreme stealth toward its prey, the coyote waits until it is close enough. After several minutes of silent stalking, the dog decides to launch its attack, emerging from its hiding place and charging directly at the sheep. Unfortunately for the canine, on the steep slopes, the ram is in its element, and in the blink of an eye, it manages to escape, leaving the coyote with an empty stomach. In a habitat as harsh as the Sonoran Desert, failing a hunt can be a death sentence, as you never know when potential prey will reappear on the horizon. For now, the hungry dog returns to patrolling the territory in search of anything that can calm the rumblings in his stomach. In such extreme habitats, having a surprisingly varied diet is one of the keys to the canid's survival. The coyote, far from being a voracious carnivore, is in fact an adaptable omnivore, satisfying its appetite with cacti, berries, seeds, grasses, insects, small rodents, birds, reptiles, and medium-sized mammals such as sheep and wild boars. To find its numerous food sources, the cunning dog relies on its highly sensitive senses. A keen sense of smell allows it to detect the subtlest sense of a juicy berry, or perhaps the trail of a rodent in its burrow. Since a large number of their potential prey live underground, their sensitive hearing is also a very useful tool for pinpointing the location of potential bite victims. While in rugged terrain, the coyote is at a clear disadvantage compared to ungulates on the plains and desert scrublands. There is virtually no wild species that poses a worthy opponent. Reaching speeds of nearly 70 kilometers per hour, this hunter will not allow its prey to escape in open country, where the rock formations that allowed the bighorn sheep to flee are non-existent. On the plains, those unsuspecting rabbits and hares devouring fresh grass are a tempting food source. With its enviable stealth, the dog gets close enough to its prey and quickly begins a lightning-fast chase, which almost always ends with the coyote holding a juicy rabbit weighing a kilogram of meat between its teeth. Although its 3-centimeter non-retractable claws are nowhere near as functional as those of felines. They allow it to be a natural digger. This skill is of great help when you detect a large colony of mice underground, and the small rodents refuse to leave their shelter. In just a few seconds, the predator manages to dig deep enough to surprise its small prey and give them a quick death through its sharp teeth. Although most of these wild dogs perfectly fit the stereotype of solitary canids perched on high cliffs howling at the moon, some, in contrast to this elusive lifestyle, prefer to live in groups. A few kilometers to the west, where rugged rock formations interrupt the plain, among the arid rocks, one of the most unique life forms of the entire Sonoran Desert ecosystem rises. With striking skin tinged with vibrant orange spots on a black background, the Gila monster is almost unmistakable in the rocky surroundings of the valleys of this arid desert. The appearance of this peculiar reptile is a vivid example of the uniqueness of the wildlife of the Sonoran Desert. Its robust and heavy body is characterized by a wide triangular head with a blunt snout. Its short, thick legs are crowned by very strong curved claws, which make it a very skilled digger. Like its limbs, its tail is not very long, giving it a robust appearance and storing huge amounts of fat, a very useful ability when living in an ecosystem where you never know when food will be scarce. The skin of this reptile, covered with small granular scales, gives it a kind of natural armor, making it immune to scratches and superficial bites. While its colors might seem to put it in the crosshairs of countless predators, the truth is that this is part of aposematic behavior, in which, through vibrant colors, some species express their potential danger to predators. And what at first glance appears to be a defenseless lizard, weighing no more than a kilogram, hides a lethal poison within itself, ready to be used if attacked by a carnivore. This, unlike snakes, is not injected through hollow fangs, but is released in grooves between their teeth in the lower jaw. Since its small size doesn't inspire fear, the Gila monster relies on this toxic substance to gain respect in this predator-ridden ecosystem. Although the reptile spends up to 95% of its time in a comfortable burrow of its own making, it must occasionally go outside to forage. Since it can run at no more than 3 kilometers per hour, with no option to flee within its capabilities, the Gila monster must make do when it encounters a predator. In contrast to the slowness of the Gila monster, the roadrunner is quite the sprinter, with beautiful brown plumage with white or cream stripes, which provides efficient camouflage in the desert environment. This bird can move with enviable stealth among the vegetation. Their feathers are more bristly on their neck and head, and on top of this they have an erectile crest, which they can lower or raise, depending on their mood. Its long, robust beak speaks to its status in the food chain as a predator. Meanwhile, their legs, by far their most prominent feature, are long and strong, and blue-gray in color. Each of these spindly limbs has 2 forward-facing toes and 2 backward-facing toes, which explains their ability to run at impressive speeds, even on uneven terrain. Its ability to run at speeds of up to 40 kilometers per hour allows it to place its sharp claws, more than 2 centimeters long, on the bulk of its unfortunate victims. When it comes to eating, the roadrunner leaves aside any pretensions, being able to devour practically any prey that comes its way. With its keen senses of sight and hearing, this cunning predator can detect even the tiniest prey at great distances and immediately target it. Of course, no matter how fast it is, the bird will always prefer to get as close as possible to its prey before starting its rapid attacks, limiting its exhausting runs to as little as possible. By disappearing into the desert vegetation, it is possible to stalk with the greatest stealth without revealing the slightest sign of its presence. After closely stalking what it hopes will be its next victim, the roadrunner launches its vicious attack, charging at full speed toward its prey. In addition to being exorbitantly fast, this fleeting hunter has the ability to make sharp turns while running, something extremely useful when chasing agile rodents or elusive insects. In these rapid chases, this weevil can also leap up to a meter in the air, avoiding obstacles that may be found on the way to its prey. After a brief run at high speeds, the result is usually always the same, and the ferocious roadrunner ends up sinking its sharp claws or its feared beak into its terrified prey. But not all of this bold predator's hunting targets will flee when threatened by a bird weighing no more than 500 grams. In a show of courage, this highwayman comes to see the venomous rattlesnake as a succulent prey. When, with its keen eyesight, this bird detects the dangerous viper, it unhesitatingly sets out to subdue it with its predatory skills, providing one of the most striking chapters of the Sonoran Desert's wildlife. If the snake is hiding in its den, its highly sensitive hearing serves as a radar to pinpoint the reptile's location. Of course, for all the ferocity displayed toward the rattlesnake, the wily roadrunner is far from the top of the food chain, so it sometimes goes from being predator to, against its will, becoming prey. With red-tailed hawks, golden eagles, owls, foxes, and coyotes eager to devour this tiny bird, this skilled survivalist knows that the Sonoran Desert is not a particularly safe environment. Of course, the roadrunner won't be easy prey. That same speed and agility that allows it to hunt swift rodents and aggressive snakes are its main tools for avoiding the stomach of another predator. Likewise, to hunt it, they must first find it, something in which its camouflage plumage and habit of hiding in bushes can be a major obstacle. When encounters with voracious carnivores become more tense than usual, as an emergency exit, it always has the alternative of spreading its wings and taking off on a short flight that takes it to the safety of a nearby perch. Not far from the roadrunner's habitat, among the timid grasslands that survive the hot temperatures, a small desert rabbit rummages through the sparse vegetation, seeking to satisfy its appetite. Although, given its tiny size of around 700 grams in weight and no more than 40 centimeters in height, this small mammal does not have a particularly vast appetite, needing huge amounts of food. In a habitat like this ungenerous desert, even finding a modest bundle of grass can be quite a challenge. Fortunately for this small lagomorph, its diet is quite varied, adapting to the austerity that often plagues this habitat. As a strict herbivore, the desert rabbit feeds on a diet based on grasses, herbs, shrubs, and even cacti. To find these humble food sources, the rabbit uses a good nose, as well as keen vision with which it can carefully scan its surroundings. However, infinite patience is perhaps its best tool for providing food, as this resilient mammal will travel vast distances around its habitat, hoping to grab anything even remotely edible. Of course, during these walks through the desert scrub, the rabbit cannot forget that he is in one of the hottest places on the planet. In the Sonoran Desert, spending a few minutes in the open air could be fatal for some species. To avoid the dreaded overheating, this cunning mammal chooses to leave its burrow only during the coolest hours of the day, when the sun gives momentary respite from its hostility. Even when tirelessly searching for food through the vegetation, the rabbit always tries to take full advantage of the shade of the bushes, where it is protected, at least momentarily, from receiving the full fury of the sun on its own flesh. Its large ears also represent an ingenious survival measure designed by its creator to avoid succumbing to extreme heat. Through these, the lagomorph manages to lose significant amounts of heat, staying cool even when the thermometer exceeds 40 degrees. In addition to the challenges brought by scorching temperatures, given its less than advantageous position in the food chain, the desert cottontail must deal with the stress of being viewed as desirable prey by countless predators. From bloodthirsty birds of prey like eagles, owls, and hawks, to hungry snakes, to ferocious foxes, coyotes, pumas, and badgers, each and every one of these carnivores would literally kill to taste the juicy flesh of this tiny mammal. While the creator was not very generous in terms of the size and ferocity of this lagomorph, he was generous in providing it with immense skills to prevail against them. Its fur, in shades of brownish gray or yellowish, with a black back, gives it prodigious natural camouflage, allowing it to disappear, whether among the rocky landscape, through dense bushes, or even in plain sight on the plain. Thanks to its large eyes and prominent ears, the desert cottontail has highly advanced senses that allow it to detect any potential threat, no matter how far away it is, even if it is several hundred meters away. When sensing a potential threat in the distance, rather than immediately fleeing the scene, the lagomorph chooses to rely on its functional camouflage and remain motionless, hoping to go unnoticed. When, on the other hand, a carnivore has already set its sights on it, it will use its sturdy legs for what they were made for, initiating a rapid escape at full speed. To evade predators, this skilled survivor often makes sharp turns, changing direction, and leaving the hunter behind. A broad knowledge of the terrain is also a key element in the survival of this skilled herbivore. Knowing where the thick bushes are that can serve as a hiding place, as well as the quickest routes to their burrow, is something that often ends up saving their lives. Since countless predators threaten its life on its way out of the burrow, the sensible desert rabbit chooses to remain sheltered for as long as possible, out of reach of the bulk of potential dangers. During the time it spends in its den, the mammal rests, trying to conserve as much energy as possible, as well as grooming its entire body in a routine that ensures its fur is in optimal condition. While life for rabbits in general comes with countless challenges, for females of the species, living in a habitat as hostile as the Sonoran Desert can be even more demanding. Given their high fertility rate, shortly after mating, a large litter of up to 6 pups is on the way. In the world of desert cottontails, the female is solely responsible for caring for the young, with the male wandering off just seconds after mating. Indeed, one of the greatest threats to the survival of these small desert rabbits that leave their burrows comes in the form of a ferocious reptile about 1.5 meters long. The rattlesnake is one of those ruthless predators that bend the entire Sonoran Desert ecosystem to its will. With coloration ranging from grayish-brown to light brown or pale yellow, mixed with a dark diamond pattern along its back, the rattlesnake blends exceptionally well into the desert landscape. Its head is triangular and wide, easily distinguishable from the neck, and its eyes, with elliptical vertical pupils, are perfectly adapted to night vision. Its tail, made of loose keratin segments, emits one of the most chilling sounds heard by any wild species across the Sonoran Desert. While the roadrunner can become a voracious predator for this reptile, the general rule is that it is the one that subdues countless prey through its vicious bite. Although their long, retractable fangs can deliver a painful bite, the powerful hemotoxic venom they conceal within them is the key to their ferocity and the fear they inspire in many wild species. Rodents such as field rats, kangaroo mice and squirrels, rabbits, hares, land birds, and even lizards are the main victims of the dreaded rattlesnake's appetite. In addition to being a very aggressive predator, the rattlesnake shows its ingenuity on every hunt. Rather than traveling great distances in search of prey, this reptile cleverly positions itself in strategic locations, such as rodent trails, burrow mouths, or foraging areas. In these privileged locations, it's only a matter of time before prey approaches and falls into a well-planned trap. Thanks to its highly sensitive loreal pits, it is able to detect the heat of its prey, allowing it to see them even in the deepest darkness. Likewise, its forked tongue allows it to detect olfactory cues in the environment, allowing it to pinpoint the location of potential bite victims. Its unique coloration allows it to almost disappear at first glance, giving no sign of its ruthless intentions to its prey. Motionless, waiting for the right moment to strike. The rattlesnake never takes its eyes off its target, carefully analyzing even the slightest movement. With its victim completely unprepared, the voracious killer, in a sudden and precise attack, launches itself at its prey, sinking its sharp fangs into its bulk. Almost in unison, the powerful venom is injected, causing excruciating pain. Here, in a twist of events, the snake retracts its bite and withdraws from the scene, patiently waiting for the venom to do its work. If the bite was not incapacitating enough, the prey will move away a few meters, trying to escape inevitable death, since the damage has already been done. After a few minutes or even hours, the reptile, following the trail of its prey, sets out to devour it. This patient strategy allows it to avoid being injured by besieged prey, as it usually returns when the victim has already become immobile, exhausted by the effects of the devastating venom. With its prey now completely inert, the rattlesnake completes its voracious attack and swallows the fruit of its hard work whole. Like the Gila monster, with its extremely slow metabolism, this reptile does not require huge amounts of food, and after devouring a rabbit or perhaps a bird, it is capable of going for weeks without diving into a new hunt. Since they are highly vulnerable during their digestion process, after a substantial meal, they usually immediately seek shelter. Usually a crevice between rocks, an abandoned rodent burrow, or simply an area with plenty of sand is a more than suitable place to rest. Here, in addition, you can protect yourself from the harsh heat by not being directly exposed to the sun. Another measure that rattlesnakes adopt to avoid a devastating death at the hands of high temperatures is to accustom themselves to going out only during the coolest times of the day. Likewise, its slow and calm temperament allows it to save energy, producing the least amount of body heat. Of course, every now and then, all that tranquility vanishes in just a second. In addition to the cunning roadrunner, a few of the Sonoran Desert's resident predators are surprisingly willing to make a juicy prey out of the feared snake. From the sky, threats come in the form of ferocious golden eagles, owls, and hawks, who in the blink of an eye can subdue the viper with their claws and carry it high into the air, where they can deal it a death with their sturdy beaks. On land, wild predators such as coyotes, badgers, foxes, and even wild boars can pose a threat to the reptile's survival, as it is not at all comfortable being on the prey's side of the trophic relationship. Likewise, other snakes, such as the king viper, will not hesitate to swallow this predator. Since many of these carnivores, such as the badger or the king snake, are immune to the rattlesnake's powerful venom, the reptile's best defense, short of its bite, is its stealthy temperament and camouflage ability. By spending hours motionless, the snake stays out of the sights of these hungry predators, who won't think twice before launching a vicious attack after it. When a hunter directly threatens the reptile's life, it uses its deafening rattle as a warning, trying to prevent the predator from approaching. Sometimes, having lost the element of surprise, the threat retreats back the way it came. However, some carnivores will not give in to their intentions even upon hearing this terrifying sound. This is when a bloody confrontation ensues, the reptile fighting for its life and the predator trying to escape a harrowing famine. Another potential predator of the aggressive rattlesnake habitat in the middle of the deep and arid desert plain, weighing no more than 240 grams, and with a small wingspan of just 60 centimeters, the burrowing owl is one of those tiny birds that fill the most inhospitable corners of the Sonoran Desert with life. Its plumage in shades of sandy brown and light brown with light spots and bars gives it a captivating appearance, yet it is stealthy enough to hide in the desert environment. Its large, round, vibrant yellow eyes give it a penetrating gaze, which contrasts with its light-toned plumage. Its beak, also tinged with shades of yellow, is small and robust, while its legs are extremely long in comparison to its body, allowing it to run and jump on the ground. These are also crowned with sharp talons up to 2 centimeters long, which represent the perfect weapon for hunting their prey. Because yes, this tiny owl, weighing less than 1/4 kilogram, is a lethal predator. Of course, living in a less than hospitable ecosystem like the Sonoran Desert, the little owl is not picky when it comes to eating, and can shovel whatever it finds into its mouth in the midst of its hostile habitat. Although its diet consists primarily of insects such as grasshoppers, beetles, and moths, when more robust prey such as mice, prairie dogs, lizards, frogs, or even other birds cross its path, this small-scale predator will assert its privileged position in the food chain, displaying all its ferocity. While species like the rattlesnake and the Gila monster can go for weeks without eating prey on a single large meal, the burrowing owl has a voracious appetite that compels it to consume numerous prey throughout the day, so its life is spent on the hunt. Perched on a high branch or on a mound of earth, with the help of its large yellow eyes, the bird carefully scans the surroundings, looking for an unfortunate victim. In contrast to most owls, the great screech owl is primarily diurnal, so it lacks the cover of night when hunting. With this in mind, it takes refuge in its efficient camouflage so that its hunting targets remain ignorant of its bloody intentions to devour them. Once on a branch, with a potential victim in its sights, the owl swoops down directly towards its prey in a short flight. While not the most prodigious flyer, its skills are effective for pouncing on unsuspecting rodents or chasing insects. This small bird makes up for its questionable aerial skills by being a feared ground hunter. Running at up to 45 kilometers per hour and leaping half a meter in the air, the owl in rapid pursuits leaves no hope of escape to its prey. After a quick burst, its sharp claws always end up digging into a frightened prey, which, just seconds later, passes away. In addition to preying on defenseless rodents, this cunning survivor is not content with that. He also tends to occupy their burrows. Given its poor burrowing abilities, the owl usurps abandoned burrows of species such as prairie dogs, foxes, badgers, and tortoises to seek refuge from the indomitable desert sun. In these cozy shelters, they manage to beat the stifling temperatures outside by a few degrees, which could mean the difference between life and death. Despite its diurnal habit, to avoid the hottest hours of the day, the owl prefers to hunt early in the morning and at dusk, when the last rays of the sun illuminate its isolated home. When its habitat becomes extremely scorching, as a survival measure, it begins to pant, rapidly vibrating its membrane in its throat, which causes rapid evaporation of water, and thus its blood cools. Although he has not built his burrow, this industrious bird personally takes care of its maintenance, removing debris and vegetation from inside, as well as making minor improvements to the entrance. In addition to hunting, during the cooler hours of the day, it has the habit of perching on branches for long periods, watching the horizon. This constant surveillance of the perimeter ensures that no unwanted visitor in the form of a hungry predator will take you by surprise. When everything is in order, you can devote yourself to preening your delicate plumage, combing the feathers, and removing any possible dirt. Although not a strictly social bird, often forming large colonies of hundreds of individuals, burrowing owls tend to congregate in relatively small areas, where family groups live dispersed, and occasionally establish striking social relationships. In these, a modest repertoire of vocalizations comes into play, where contact calls between pairs and nearby conspecifics are frequent. Likewise, when a predator invades the bird's domain, in a show of altruism, they immediately sound the alarm, allowing them to take refuge in a timely manner. One of the most distinctive sounds they make is the hiss of a snake. This is part of a very ingenious survival measure when threatened inside a burrow. By imitating the disturbing sound of a rattlesnake, predators often fall into the trap and end up retreating to avoid facing what is supposedly an aggressive reptile. Just as the Sonoran Desert is home to the tiny burrowing owl, this inhospitable habitat is also home to true giants. One of them is a gigantic deer weighing up to 180 kilograms. Roaming through desert scrub, rocky slopes, and riparian areas, the mule deer is one of those burly mammals adapted to the harsh living conditions of this torturous desert. Its fur, ranging in shades of brownish-gray to light brown, gives it a stealthy appearance. The ungulate has a characteristic white patch on its rump and around its tail. Their ears are responsible for their distinctive name. They are remarkably large, reaching up to 28 centimeters in length, similar to those of a mule. Its tail, on the other hand, is relatively short, and it usually keeps it raised when running. And speaking of running, strong long legs, crowned with broad hooves, allow it to traverse steep terrain, where other species could not even take a couple of steps. Although in winter, during the mating season, they gather in large herds. During the summer, the most robust males prefer to live alone, or sometimes join small groups of bachelors. For their part, the females, carrying the entire burden of raising children on their shoulders, usually live in herds all year round, caring for their defenseless fawns. The daily routine of mule deer in the Sonoran Desert is limited, practically to just one task: searching for food. With such a robust body to maintain, these ungulates travel surprising distances in an attempt to locate significant sources of forage. As a good browsing herbivore, when the mule deer goes hunting, desert shrubs, grasses, fruits, and even cacti are in its sights. Being a prodigious survivor, it adapts to the modest vegetation the desert provides, satisfying its appetite with whatever it finds. Given its vast size, a single specimen can consume several kilograms of forage a day, so the task of calming its stomach rumblings often takes several hours. Moving with extreme patience through its habitat, the deer carefully sifts through the vegetation, nibbling leaves and shoots from bushes and low trees. Since finding food in the middle of a vast, almost lifeless desert can be quite a feat, the herbivore relies on its advanced sense of smell, as well as its keen eyesight, to locate these coveted food sources. Just as their sense of vision allows them to find bushes and fresh herbs, it is also part of their tools to defend themselves against the most ferocious carnivores. Representing a copious prey of almost 200 kilograms of juicy meat, there are plenty of predators eager to subdue this ungulate through their claws and bites. Pumas, coyotes, and even the feared American black bear in mountainous areas are capable of destroying this majestic mammal. Faced with the odds against survival, this cunning ungulate does everything possible to avoid falling into the hands of the most ruthless predators. Its brownish fur represents its first line of defense. Seen from a distance, it blends perfectly into the dry desert vegetation, limiting unfortunate encounters with vicious carnivores. In addition to giving them a peculiar appearance, their large ears function as gigantic amplifiers, being able to perceive even the most subtle sounds from several hundred meters and even kilometers away. Being able to detect coyotes and pumas before they even approach, the deer is able to always maintain a safe distance between itself and predators. For those ungulates that have opted for a gregarious lifestyle, living in large groups allows them to maintain constant surveillance of the perimeter. With dozens of eyes looking around, the chances of being surprised by a carnivore are almost zero. Even when, Against all odds, hunters manage to outwit the mule deer's keen senses. It still has a few tricks that make it a far from easy prey. Being able to run at speeds of over 70 kilometers per hour. If a predator wants a piece of the deer's juicy meat, it will first have to catch it. With an impressive stride and the ability to make long leaps, the ungulate is already several hundred meters away from the danger zone, just seconds after detecting a potential threat. In these rapid escapes, the mammal often displays surprising deterrent signals, such as powerful leaps on all fours, intended to demonstrate its physical prowess to the predator, and the predator eventually resigns itself to letting its prey escape. While in open country, mule deer rely on their speed to flee. When found on steep slopes, their impressive adaptability to rocky terrain allows them to emerge unscathed from dangerous encounters with ferocious pumas. Its sturdy legs and very wide hooves allow it to leap with astonishing ease between rugged cliffs, leaving any attacker in its wake. After living in complete solitude for months, when mating season finally arrives, male deer completely break away from their elusive lifestyle and congregate near the female herds. Here, following the call of reproduction, the deer set out to copulate with as many females as they can. Of course, such a precious privilege is not within everyone's reach. To win the right to mate with up to dozens of deer, the ungulates must compete in a savage duel for dominance, using their robust antlers to subdue their rival. It's simple. The winner takes it all, while the loser must wait until next year. In these fights, each ungulate uses all its strength to knock down its opponent, ending with both exhausted after a bloody altercation. Although the fight is fought without the slightest trace of mercy, rarely does one of the combatants suffer serious injuries, and generally, the weaker and more fatigued deer ends up yielding to the strength of the dominant buck. But mule deer herds aren't the only large groups of robust mammals that inhabit the wild Sonoran Desert. Not far from the deer breeding area, among the desert scrub, a large herd of collared peccaries appears into view. These muscular mammals, up to 1 meter long and weighing around 20 kilograms, survive as a family in the hostile living conditions of the Sonoran Desert. Although its appearance is somewhat unique, to say the least, it is still captivating. Its fur, ranging in shades of black to gray, is thick and coarse. Around its neck it sports a band of creamy or white fur, arranged like a collar, giving it its distinctive name. Its head is quite small compared to its body, with an elongated snout and a flexible nasal disc that allows it to root in the ground. Their sturdy, short legs have strong hooves, which make it possible to traverse rocky terrain with complete ease. In addition to their striking collar, their appearance is notable, especially in the case of males, for a pair of sharp fangs protruding from their jaws. These perform very important functions throughout their hectic daily routine. In contrast to other ungulates that may choose a solitary life, collared peccaries are a highly social species, viewing family as one of the keys to their survival. Living in groups of up to 20 individuals called herds, these mammals are highly gregarious, sometimes spending the entire day together. Herd members share extremely close bonds, foraging, resting, and sleeping in groups. This strong group unity guarantees their survival, as they can take refuge in the safety of the group. To strengthen their already close bond, the peccaries maintain constant communication. This is where their highly varied vocalizations play a crucial role. Through grunts, snorts, barks, and squeals, these ungulates emit alarm signals, as well as maintain contact while foraging. Olfactory communication also forms an essential part of their social dynamics. Using their scent gland located near their tail, they can identify each member of the herd with a characteristic odor, and this fragrance is a versatile tool for delimiting the group's territory. Although coexistence tends to be peaceful most of the time, Peace does not always reign in herds of peccaries. Given that in the complex world of these ungulates, there is a fluid hierarchy, without a fixed leader, there are sometimes some disputes over who takes command of the group. Fortunately, these duels, which involve baring teeth, shoving, and gentle biting, rarely result in serious injuries, and peace returns within minutes of the altercation. Defining a hierarchy, at least temporarily, allows each peccary to know its place in the group, avoiding unnecessary conflicts. Although a male may temporarily dominate the group, this position does not necessarily influence the herd's decision-making. However, it does offer several benefits regarding access to females and resources when foraging. Speaking specifically about foraging, peccaries, of course, usually go out in search of food as a family. As the perfect example of an opportunistic omnivorous species, these robust ungulates can devour virtually anything in their path. However, they often show a preference for a herbivorous diet, consuming cacti such as the nopal and saguaro, devouring their leaves, fruits, and flowers. Thanks to their long fangs and thick skin, they can handle thorny plants unharmed. When fresh cacti are unavailable, roots, bulbs, tubers, and fruits represent a significant food source. To supplement their diet, insects, larvae, worms, bird eggs, small reptiles, and even carrion provide considerable amounts of protein. During their long foraging walks, they often root through the ground using their versatile snouts. Carefully digging up roots, bulbs, and insects, the mammals bring juicy snacks straight to their mouths. A sensitive sense of smell also helps them locate potential food sources, even at great distances, which is especially helpful when austerity hits the ecosystem of this arid desert hard, which is almost always the case. Although collared peccaries can display highly social behavior with members of their own herd, when it comes to an outside group, all that friendliness falls by the wayside. With the group's territories carefully established, no herd will tolerate incursions from its neighbors. Sometimes, just venturing a few meters into someone else's land to forage can spark a violent altercation. Given that in a habitat as hostile as the Sonoran Desert, perhaps an even greater threat to the survival of these muscular ungulates comes in the form of a powerful feline weighing up to 100 kilograms. When the ferocious mountain lion, the puma, stalks, all hope of survival vanishes, and its unfortunate prey can do nothing but surrender to a painful death at the hands of the dominant predator of this entire punishing ecosystem. Living among rocky slopes, lonely canyons, and dense desert scrub, thanks to the yellowish-brown or tawny coloration of its fur, this feline is capable of hiding with surprising, and at the same time, frightening skill. Despite its colossal size, the cougar is characterized by its enviable stealth skills. Accustomed to living in solitary habitats, where silence is the rule, this cunning predator knows well that even the slightest sound can reveal its presence, causing its potential prey to flee. Thanks to its strong musculature, the puma is able to adapt to different types of biomes, being able to move through steep terrain without the slightest difficulty. Its large, greenish-amber eyes provide it with unerring night vision, ideal for hunting at dawn and when the sun finally sets. As the almighty apex predator that it is, the feline is capable of subduing any species inhabiting the wild Sonoran Desert, regardless of its aggressiveness or size. However, their main prey are large ungulates such as bighorn sheep, mule deer, and of course, collared peccaries. Similarly, some somewhat more modest prey such as rabbits, hares, coyotes, foxes, and birds also represent a good source of juicy meat. Regardless of the prey, this ingenious predator's hunting strategy rarely changes. Having detected his victim using his sensitive hearing and keen vision, the hunter, with nothing to wait for, stealthily approaches his prey. Whether through dense undergrowth or on rugged slopes, the feline remains hidden, fine-tuning the final details of its impregnable attack. Aware that losing prey could plunge it into a crushing famine, the cougar leaves nothing to chance and postpones its attack until every last detail is coldly calculated. After stalking his victim for up to hours, the wait comes to an end, and with a powerful leap of up to 12 meters, the hunter falls upon his terrified prey, who desperately tries to fight for his life. With the help of its sharp retractable claws, the feline subdues its prey, leaving it immobile and terrified at what is about to happen. With the victim under its will, the puma finishes the kill with a powerful bite directly to the neck, breaking the animal's spine. Immediately after completing its hunt, the predator sets out to satisfy its appetite with copious amounts of fresh meat. While it can devour up to 10 kilograms of its prey in a single meal, having been successful in capturing bighorn sheep or mule deer, the leftovers will be plentiful, and wasting food is a luxury that not even the apex predator of this kingdom can afford. Therefore, as soon as it is satisfied, the mountain lion sets out to search for the remains in a safe place, such as under a bush or at the foot of a rocky cliff. With its hunt over, the puma can forget about the food problem, at least for a while, and focus on other daily tasks. When it's not sinking its sharp fangs into the neck of a defenseless ungulate, it's likely resting in some cozy spot near where it has cached its kill. After a hearty meal, the feline has the interesting habit of grooming its dense fur, patiently licking every part of its body until it is completely clean, without a single trace of vegetation or blood. Despite dominating vast territories, the puma jealously guards the boundaries of its land. With a highly territorial behavior, this feline will not hesitate to show extreme hostility upon detecting an invader. Of course, all this aggression is put aside when, instead of a challenging male, it is a fertile female intent on mating. Since they do not have a fixed breeding season, pumas can procreate at any time of the year. When females begin estrus, they attract males through loud howls and cries that express their receptivity. Typically, when a male locates a female, there is no elaborate courtship ritual or anything of the sort. Just seconds after her arrival, the puma chases the female, and without wasting time, mounts her, beginning a brief copulation that can be repeated countless times over several days. After numerous copulations, the male, considering his job done, will leave the way he came, leaving the female with the sole responsibility of raising her future cubs, who will be born in approximately 95 days. Of course, puma mating season isn't always so benevolent. Just as a feline, upon encountering a receptive female, immediately mounts her, sometimes another male has gone ahead, and, with the meeting of two ferocious beasts and a single fertile female at stake, only violence can resolve this dispute. Here, heart-rending claws and powerful bites will decide who wins the coveted right to spread their lineage in one of the most violent confrontations in the entire Sonoran Desert ecosystem. Although, given its ferocity, the puma stands as the lord and master of the entire desert, subduing countless species with its sharp claws and strong bite. The truth is that not even this formidable feline is free from having a predator. The illegal hunting of this majestic feline is a cruel practice that can have a devastating effect on its population. Year after year, as a result of retaliation for livestock predation, as well as the booming illegal fur and trophy trade, more and more pumas are ending up bearing the brunt of human greed. The Gila monster is another species severely affected by human intervention in an ecosystem that was pristine just a few decades ago. Being stigmatized as a highly venomous species, this reptile is mistakenly seen as a threat, when in fact its docile temperament makes it completely harmless. The illegal trafficking of exotic species is another threat these lizards face. Many of these reptiles are kidnapped from their natural habitat to be illegally traded in other parts of the world. The constant pressure on these reptile populations has placed the species in a state of threat, a worrying situation that could be a prelude to their extinction. As a result of infrastructure construction, species such as mule deer are severely affected. The rise of human settlements in the area, with the resulting construction of fences and roads, represents a mortal danger for these ungulates. Similarly, both legal and illegal hunting of these deer is gradually decimating their populations, seriously affecting the food chain of the entire ecosystem. Although the outlook may not be at all encouraging, there is still hope. The wild inhabitants of this vast desert demonstrate their ferocity and irreverence in the face of extinction day after day. Preserving the Sonoran Desert isn't just about protecting its wildlife. It's about safeguarding a unique natural heritage that teaches us about resilience and nature's struggle to prevail, even in the most hostile living conditions. Have you been breathless with the stories of the wild species of the unforgiving Sonoran Desert? Then don't leave without leaving us a like. Also, remember to write in the comments box which species impressed you the most. To stay up to date with our upcoming videos, you can subscribe and click the notification bell. Finally, if you're interested in helping more people learn about the fantastic wildlife of the hostile Sonoran Desert, share this video with your friends. Without further ado, we'll see you next time with more stories of arid deserts, ferocious reptiles, bloodthirsty felines, and of course, stories of wild lives.